Hello, my name is Julie Shields Rutina, and I am the Director of College Planning, Education, and Training at MEFA. And today we're going to talk about the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. First, I'll tell you a little bit about MEFA. MEFA is a state authority created in 1982 to help families plan, save, and pay for college. We have the state savings programs, the U-Plan and the U-Fund. We also have low-cost financing for families who need that type of financing for college. And everything else we do is related to guiding families at whatever stage or age your children are at in planning, saving, and paying for college. So the FAFSA, very important form. The free application for federal student aid, remember the word free, never pay to complete this form. This is the main form that students use to apply for financial aid. All colleges require it. So it's a very important form to complete and complete by college deadlines. So colleges, just as they have admissions deadlines, have financial aid deadlines. Make sure you know what those deadlines are and complete this form prior to the earliest deadline of all of the colleges that you're applying to. So it opens on October 1st every year, the new year. So if your student is applying for financial aid right now in the fall of 2022, hoping to be a student in the fall of 23, spring of 24, so the 23-24 calendar year, it's ready, available, and you should complete it as soon as possible. Okay, some colleges, especially if you're applying early action or early decision, will have deadlines as early as November. So the earlier you can complete this form, you'll make sure you won't be missing any deadlines, even though some colleges have deadlines as late as March, or even like the state deadline, which goes to May. All of those deadlines are out there, but as long as you have this form in, you'll meet them all. And you'll just feel better having this task done. So you should complete this form online at FAFSA.gov, and you will complete it every year. Let's see what else I can tell you about it. Try to be as thorough as possible, putting zeros into questions where the answer is zero. Try not to leave anything blank. But there is help all the way through the form. So you'll see if you have a question on a question, just look at the little help, see if you can figure it out. And if not, I'm going to give you lots of resources of where you can go to get help. One final note, some colleges require an additional form in addition to the FAFSA, most commonly the CSS profile of the College Board. Sometimes their own institutional application, but just know if a college requires something else, you need to complete that form too, and also by the deadlines. So make sure you know what the college is requiring. But today, now we're going to talk about the FAFSA. Here's the information that it's helpful to have in front of you when you sit down to complete this form. It's helpful if you have a student driver's license, but that is not required. If the student doesn't have a license, that's absolutely fine. But the other important things are Social Security numbers for student and parent, date of birth, W-2 forms or pay stubs. For this year that we talked about, 2022, when you're filing for the year 23-24, hoping the student will be a student in 23-24, the income tax return that you need is 2021. So when completing this form, you're going to use that income tax form that's already been completed. And any other 2021 income tax records, current bank statements, investment statements. FAFSA also has customer service. So if you run into a problem when completing the form, you can call or email or chat, and the hours are on the screen. But again, there's lots of help right there as you're going through the form. Now, before you start the form, it's helpful if you create an FSA ID. And basically that's just a username and a password, but it's your federal student aid ID. And you need one for the student and one for the parent, one parent who's going to be completing it with the student. So go to that website, studentaid.gov/FSAID, create account, and you'll create a username and password, as we do on many other forms these days. And then you'll provide that personal information, the username and password, and have some challenge questions for yourself so that if you ever forget your password, you can go back and create a new one. And then here's where you'll start the FAFSA at FAFSA.gov. And you'll see the first time you're going in to start it, you want to go to new to the FAFSA process. Fill it out now, start here. Later, once the form is completed, if you want to make any corrections or add an additional college that you want to send your information to, that's when you'll use returning user. But for now, start here. And then you'll go in and it will ask you about, tell you about state deadlines. So it will ask about your state, but just know that the state deadlines are usually much later than the college deadlines. So when you type in Massachusetts and it tells you that your state deadline is May 1st, don't wait till May 1st, still get the form done sooner so that you make sure you make all of the deadlines. And then you can either start and say, I am a student and want to access the FAFSA form, or I am a parent filling out a FAFSA form for a student. And either way, either party can work on the form. It's nice if you can work on it together, but then you can save as you go along and each of you can do different parts. So know that you can get into the form both ways. So when you go in, you will say, log in to continue. And if you haven't yet created that FSA ID, you can do that here, but it's so much more helpful if you just have that done a day or so in advance and then start the form right here. Log in with your FSA ID. And then it will start with the student. And this is an important point. This technically is the student's form. The student is applying to college. It's the student's FAFSA. But for dependent students, it requires a parent as well. But just make sure you look always when it says you the student, and then later it will say you the parent. Make sure you're putting in the correct person's information. So here you will enter the student's name, date of birth, and social security number. And then this is a disclosure statement that we see on many forms online, just to have you understand that you know that you're filling out a federal form, you want to be honest and accurate. So then you accept that you've read that, and you move along. So then to get started, you want to make sure you select the correct form. And again, it's the form for the year that the student is going to be enrolled, 23-24, if you're completing it now. And you'll choose that. And it also allows you to create a save key. And that's just an easy way for if you think you're going to be going in and out of the form, not doing it all at one sitting, to just create a short save key, and then it makes it an easier way to get back into the exact form. But again, save as you go along and you'll be able to get back in there. Some more information, some questions, resources about completing the form. So you can click on any of those questions. But again, save it as you go along and make sure you know there's lots of free help out there. Don't do this alone. Get help if you need it. And you'll see at the top, it will take you through the sections so you can see how far along you are with the form. And truly, it doesn't take too long once you just have all your information and you sit down to do it. And again, if parent and student can be together, it's ideal. So at the top, you can save the FAFSA as you go along, and you can review when you need to as well. And again, here, you means the student. All right, so here you go with the student information, email address. What's key about this is to use an email address that you will check often. And in fact, if you have an email address that's going to follow you after high school, try to use that one, because you know your high school email will end when you graduate. So it's just nice if you use an email that you're not going to give up at the end of the school year. Your email address and your telephone number. And then you'll continue with your mailing address and zip code. Let's just talk for a minute about who's eligible to file the FAFSA. US citizens and eligible non-citizens, including all of these listed here, because the citizenship status will be verified by the Social Security Administration and the Department of Homeland Security. On another note, I will tell you that MEFA has videos of other presentations online for students who don't meet this criteria and have varying levels of documentation. So if you don't qualify here to file the FAFSA, go to some of those other presentations that can help you think about college and paying for it. And then a couple of other next items. Current high school students should select these two answers: that you are working on your first bachelor's degree when it asks why you're going to college, and that you won't have a first bachelor's degree before 23-24, and your college grade level will be never attended college first year. It's going to also ask if you're interested in work study. And my advice is say yes. That doesn't obligate you to anything, but you want to be interested in any of the aid that a college can offer to you. And so definitely say yes. Work study is a great resource to have, to work on campus and to get paid for all kinds of personal and miscellaneous expenses while you're in college. And by saying no, that doesn't mean you're going to get more of other types of financial aid. It's just a positive all around, and it doesn't obligate you to anything at this time. Males at birth who are 18 or older must register for selective service. But just know that this question is going away next year, and this year it doesn't impact your anything. So, just answer yes or no and move on. And then if you have a driver's license, you can put that here. And if you have been in the foster care system, you want to answer these questions honestly. There is financial aid associated with being in foster care. Then you'll add your high school. You can do a lookup for this. And then you'll receive this first initial note that will say, based on the information you've provided, we've determined you may qualify for federal student aid. That just means that you completed these initial questions and it seems like you should continue completing the FAFSA. So this doesn't mean you're going to get certain aid or type, it just means keep going. Then you're going to choose the colleges where you would like to send all this information. So any of the colleges that you plan to apply to, just put them on here, the state, the city, the school name, and then it should come up in a search, check the box and load that in. Now, if at this point you only know a couple of colleges or even one college that you're going to apply to, that's fine. Complete the form, put that college in, and then you can always go back and add other colleges afterwards. You can add 10 colleges at one time. So let's say you have 12 colleges you're going to apply to. Go in, add 10 colleges here, and then once you complete the form, send it in, you're going to wait to receive an acknowledgement back from federal student aid that says your FAFSA has been processed. We sent your information to these 10 colleges. Then once you receive that, which will be, maybe 5 days after you submit this form, then you can feel comfortable because you know it went to those 10 colleges. You can go back into the FAFSA, take off some colleges and add your last 2 colleges and then send that off again. So that's how you send more than 10 colleges. And then you can look at the college info. This is a new feature that as you're applying to colleges, if you want to look at a little more information about them, feel free to go in here, and it gives just some good general information about the colleges that you're applying to. And then it's going to ask you about your housing plan. So that could be up in the air. It could depend on a lot, right? It could depend on the financial aid that you're offered. So what I would say is choose your first choice housing plan. If you would like to live on campus, put on campus. If at a later point, that's not going to be the case, you can work with the financial aid office and change that, and aid might change. But if you want to live on campus, put on campus. If you know you won't, you can choose one of the other options. So now it's going to ask you questions like, are you married? This is the student. Are you married? Are you pursuing a graduate degree? How old are you? Do you have dependents that receive your support? Are you on active duty, military, or a veteran? All the other criteria here. And this is going to determine if you are a dependent student, meaning that your parents' information is going to be required, or if you are independent. So if you're able to answer yes to any of these questions, then you will be independent. And that birth date, the age is 24. If you're over 24, you can be considered independent, in which case it will just be your information, the student, on the form. Other than that, your parent information will be required. So then it will ask you, it will tell you that you're dependent and your parent information is required, possibly, unless you're independent. But maybe you're dependent, or it says you're dependent, but you have a special circumstance that is not going to allow you to provide parental information. This gives you the chance to say, I'm unable to, I'm just going to provide my own information. The problem is, by not providing your parents' information when it's required because you're dependent, you are going to miss out possibly on some financial aid. So really, if you're dependent, you should put your parents' information on here, or check you're unable and then connect with the college to talk with them about the fact that you can't, and maybe get an override of this dependency status decision. So just know you either should complete it with your parent information if you're dependent, or talk to the college if you have to say, I'm unable to provide my parents' information. And then it will ask information about the parents. So this is, you can look up at the top, parent information. And so you will give your parents' marital status. Parents live together, parents are divorced or separated. I live with one parent more, I live with both parents equally, I was legally adopted. So provide that. And then you will give the marital status of your parents. And here who is considered a parent: your biological or adoptive parents and certain step parents. So if both parents are married or not married but live together, including same-sex couples, then you would provide both parents' information on the form. In the case of a divorce or separation, then you would provide information about the parent that you, the student, lived with more in the last 12 months. So provide that parent, and if that parent is remarried, the step parent too. So that's what you would do there. If you lived with both parents equally, then it's provide the information of the parent who gave you more financial support. If that's also equal, pick a parent to be sort of the college application, financial aid application parent. All right, and then it will ask more information about your parents. And it will ask about your parents' dependent children. So anyone who has more than half their financial support for the 23-24 year will be considered a dependent there. And it will also ask about your parents' other dependents. And you can read all of that criteria. And then it will ask you for the number in college. So you will include yourself, the student, and any other household members who will attend at least half-time in a program that leads to a college degree or certificate, any other siblings, anyone else in the household, but not the parents. And then we'll come to the section of the FAFSA where you'll be completing parent tax return information. And again, this will be from your 2021 federal tax return if you're completing it now and plan to attend college in 23-24. So at this point, there's a really nice option here that may be offered to you, and that is the IRS data retrieval tool. So if this option is offered to you, I advise that you use it, because first of all, you press a button and it will bring your information from the 2021 federal tax return into the form and make it a lot easier. You'll be nearly finished. And it just, when a school sees that you use the IRS data retrieval tool, they know it all came from your tax return. Then they feel more confident in that information and may not have to follow up with additional questions. It may not be offered if your marital status changes, if your address changes, if some things happen during the year, you may not be offered the chance to use the IRS data retrieval tool. And if not, it's not a problem. You can just skip it, and then you can have your tax return and it will ask you the questions so that you can retrieve information from your tax return and type it right into the form. And it's very helpful. It will say, adjusted gross income from line X, and you'll take that number and put it in. So you can type it in if you're not allowed to use the tool, but I would highly recommend you using the tool if offered. So you will say, yes, I want to use this tool, proceed to the IRS. And then this is about the IRS data retrieval tool. So it will upload your 2021 federal tax data right into the FAFSA. Once the information is transferred, you will not be able to see the numbers, but that is done for your security. So that is a good thing, even though I know sometimes we hope all the right information came in, but it is truly a security issue. So that's why you cannot see it. You will be asked if you had a rollover and if untaxed IRS distributions or untaxed pensions are present, because they just want to make sure that they are counting that correctly. Just know, because this is sometimes confusing to parents, that even after you load in your income tax return information using the IRS data retrieval tool, those who are married filing jointly will still be asked a question about income earned from working, so your wages, even afterwards. It seems funny because it feels like you already did that, but they just want it to be split up from each parent because that's the way the formula works. So that's correct. That doesn't mean anything's wrong. Just know you will have to put that information in about income earned from working, even after you use the tool. And again, I mentioned you may not be offered the tool if you're married filing separately or head of household, or if you have a Puerto Rican tax return, a foreign tax return, something like that. All right. And then if you're not offered to be able to use the tool, this is the information you will enter into the FAFSA: your adjusted gross income, the amount earned from working, your income tax from the tax return, and other income from the tax return. And it will give you the line numbers. And just know that you're going to put additional information into the FAFSA form, and that will be subtracted from the income that is in there, like child support paid, earnings from a co-op. So that's mostly for continuing students who have done a co-op or work study program. Those earnings will be subtracted out. Combat pay, any grants or scholarships you received, again, mostly for continuing students, and education credits such as the AOTC. And here's untaxed income. It will ask you questions about that, and you'll have to put in information about any payments to the tax deferred pension and retirement savings plans in that 2021 year. And then IRA deductions to these other qualified plans. You'll also have to put in child support received, tax exempt interest income, untaxed portions of IRS distributions and pensions, and then housing and living allowances paid to military, clergy, and others, veterans, non-educational benefits, and other untaxed income such as workers' compensation and disability. So if you have any of those, you'll put those in. And again, it will tell you the exact line number from the tax return where that's applicable. And some of these may not apply to you, and you just put 0. So now you're going to report parent assets. And sometimes it will do a calculation behind the scenes for you and just ask you a question. As of today, does the total amount of your parents' current assets exceed $7,300? And you either say yes or no. And then it may not ask you any more questions if you say no. And if you say yes, it will ask, what is the total current balance of cash, savings, and checking? Put that total amount in there. And then as of today, what is the net worth of your parents' investments, including real estate, but not the home you live in? So that's only if it's other real estate, a vacation home, another property. And then it will also ask the net worth of your parents' current businesses or investment farms. But note, if you have a family farm or business with 100 or fewer full-time employees, you don't need to list it. So you can say 0. People sometimes ask about checking accounts. It's a good idea to, I know checking accounts go up and down as you pay your bills. So if you're supposed to list the amount that's in your accounts on the day you file the FAFSA. So maybe just do this after you've paid your bills for the month. Cash, savings, checking. What else can I tell you? Your 529 college savings plans for any of your beneficiaries, they go in that investment field. And I think that's it for now. So I guess we talked about this already. Current balance of cash, savings, and checking, and any investments, and the net value of businesses that qualify. And here are the things you should not include: your primary residence, no information about the home that you live in, life insurance, the value of your retirement accounts. You do not have to report that, and the value of small family businesses or farms. Then it's going to take you to the student financial information, and it's going to ask you the same questions about students as it did about parents. So just go through the same way. And student, you may have the option to use that IRS data retrieval tool as well if you filed taxes. If not, you can say you didn't need to file taxes. That's fine. Then you're close to the end. You are going to be able to sign and submit. And so it will give you a chance to review the form, go back over, make sure you didn't put any extra zeros in, and you can see where you are along the top. And hopefully you have your FSA ID for student and parent, and you can go right in, and that's what you will use to electronically sign this form and submit it. Keep your FSA IDs in a really safe place. Both parent and student, because parents, you will use that if you complete FAFSAs for other children or next year, and students, you will use this next year and all the way into the future when repaying loans or all kinds of things. So keep that FSA ID, that username and password for both. And then you will click sign electronically, print a signature page, or submit without signatures. Truly, you should just sign electronically with your FSA ID. That's the easiest way. It will get to the colleges the quickest. Let me give you one option. If a student is a US citizen or permanent resident or qualifies to complete the FAFSA, but the parent is not, that's okay. Parent, you would go in and complete this form with the student and put zeros for your social security number. And then this is the only other point where it's different. You'll have to print a signature page. You won't be able to sign electronically without that Social Security number, FSA ID. So just print the signature page, sign it, and send it in the mail to the address on the top of the form. That's the one difference if a parent is not a US citizen or permanent resident. And then I would say the only time you would submit without signatures is if there was some kind of a problem. And if you do that, please contact the college. And then you'll receive, hopefully, a congratulatory note that says your form was successfully submitted. And then you will see, if you gave a good email for student and parent, you should receive emails as you go along saying it's in process. And then within a week or so, you should receive a student aid report notifying you that the FAFSA form was processed. And again, it should say that the information was sent to the list of schools you provided. So then you'll feel safe if you need to go in and add more colleges. Your school may contact you after that to ask for more information, and that's all part of the process. But this will be a really good moment for you. And know that something else that's on this student aid report is your estimated expected family contribution. It will say EFC equals, and there's a number. So that is the number that the college will use to determine how much financial aid to offer to you. So if you want to learn more about that, you can watch one of MEFA's Financial Aid 101 webinars to understand how that all factors in. But just know that that number is there. Also, if you're a parent who is completing the FAFSA form for more than one child this year, lucky you, you can move right here into complete a FAFSA form for another child, transfer FAFSA information, and it just brings your information forward and makes that second form a little bit easier to complete. Also, you'll see with this form, on the FAFSA itself, there is nowhere to write in any notes or special circumstances. So if you have circumstances in your family that you feel are not, you weren't able to tell with the numbers on the form, please know that you can contact the financial aid offices at the colleges at any time. And the types of things that financial aid offices really would want to hear from you about are if you have a loss of income or assets after you file the form, and that changes. If there was death or serious illness, natural disasters, some expenses that aren't covered or the questions aren't asked about, like medical expenses or financial responsibility for grandparents, things like that. You can always feel free to write a letter or an email to the financial aid offices saying, "Dear financial aid administrator, here's some additional information I would like you to have when reviewing my application." And then anywhere you can keep short bullet points, but of very specific financial changes or issues in your circumstances. So again, after you submit the FAFSA, the colleges that you put on the form will receive the data electronically. You'll receive that student aid report. And the colleges may request additional documentation from you. It's just part of the process. They have to verify a certain number of applications. So please stay on top of your email and don't let something go if they're asking for a follow-up form. And then typically the college will send out a financial aid offer to you in March or April. If you've applied early, it will probably come earlier. After the admissions letters go out, they know that if you are admitted, you need to know what the financial aid offer will be. So usually that financial aid offer will follow soon after, so that you will have that before you make a decision to attend. Here are some resources that you can use to help complete this form. A FAFSA Day is a great organization of financial aid experts in Massachusetts. If you go to fafsaday.org, you will see that every month for the next 3 or 4 upcoming months, they will have an online event that you can join, and you can join a breakout room with a financial aid expert who can answer your questions on the form and help you get this form submitted. So that's some great help. Also, the educational opportunity centers here in Massachusetts are terrific. Mass EdCo is one of the largest. You can go there and they are also willing to help you complete these forms. And in fact, they have a lot of staff who speak different languages. So if it would be easier for you to be having these conversations about all of this in your native language, Mass EdCo might be a great place to go. So please note also, this is one step in receiving financial aid and making that plan, but there are others. So please come back to mefa.org/events, look at all of our other webinars and events that we're having so that we can help you with the whole saving, planning, paying for college. What you can do right away is get that FSA ID for both student and parent, and that will help you when you sit down soon to complete this form. Make sure you research all of those deadlines for your colleges, and again, get this form done as soon as possible, and any other financial aid applications that might be required. Connect with MEFA on all of this social media. We continually put out great relevant content and even information about scholarships you can apply to, outside scholarships, outside of the financial aid process. And you can always call us or email us with questions. Thank you so much. Bye now.